I sleep better in my van than I do at home. I don't know what it is. If it's just because I'm out on the road and I'm feeling free or something, but it's bizarre. I don't sleep well at home, but I get in the van, I'm like, oh, this is where I'm supposed to be. Even Amy is like, yeah, this is so nice, excuse me while I go to the front and get some cheese and crackers, And I'll meet you out on the front porch, which is our beautiful Fiamma awning.
This is the part of the build where the real magic starts, going from flat metal and raw wood to fully custom components. Welcome to the heart of the fabrication phase. This isn't just any build, it's Mike's vision coming together piece by piece.
Hey, there we go.
Welcome back to Mike's Van Build Podcast. I'm Jerem with Van Life Outfitters, and we're documenting every stage of Mike's custom van conversion from start to finish. Today's a big one too. We've officially entered the customization phase. Almost everything, the bed frame, cabinets, benches, they're all being made from scratch, specifically for Mike's layout and gear. If you're enjoying the ride so far, make sure to like and subscribe. Now, let's drop into the conversation I had with Mike. Hey, Mike, episode 6. Thanks for coming back.
You're welcome. Glad to be back.
This is a big one because we're talking about customization, and you are putting a ton of custom work into your van. Why? How come you need so much custom work?
Well, I'm not putting the custom work in. Site 7 is, but I'm
point.
putting in the ideas. Well, I mean, basically, I'm going to, live in the van, whether it's for a weekend or a week or a day or a year. And, I want to be comfortable. And having lived in a couple vans in the past, I've kind of figured out what allows me to feel comfortable, what allows me to function as if I was just at home. So, initially when I lived in my van, it was just me, so the Volkswagen was perfectly fine. And fortunately, when I met Amy, she was a good sport, and she actually liked living in Althea with me, whether it was 2 days or 2 weeks at a time. So having a travel companion that also kind of vibes with what you like is also important. So, but this van now is for Amy and I. And so the customization comes down to sort of Amy and I knowing how we live together, how we function together as a couple, both in a house and on the road. And so we try to maximize that same level of comfort in the van that we find at home.
What was one of the first areas of the van that you knew you were going to need some custom work done?
There was probably a couple places. One was the entrance. That's work calling. Excuse me. Let me take this. Van Life Outfitters. It was just the overall entry area of the van and coming into the van. Again, we needed to consider that not only is this a recreational vehicle, I'm going to be working on the road. When Amy's not working, she's a nurse, she's going to be recreating and enjoying herself. So, if she's on the beach or hiking and I'm in the van, I need to be able to have some sort of office. The other area was the bed in the garage area. Willow had a big garage and a wall that separated the garage from the main part of the van, which I think kind of made it smaller. And because the placement of the water tank was within the garage and that wall, the bed was huge and it went way into the van. So instead of, you had 5 or 6 steps and you're at the bed. So to be able to customize it to be both a sleeping space, an eating space, a working space, a hanging out space. One of the things Amy said to me a while ago, she goes, I was like, well, let's just lay on the bed and watch TV. She goes, I don't want to lay around in the van. I mean, we don't lay around at home. So, she would rather sit in a bench or swivel one of the seats. So, knowing how to travel or what you want to do when you travel with the person you're traveling with has a lot of influence in the design and the custom features. And so that was important for us, that everything was where it needed to be, and that we could function comfortably and enjoy ourselves when we were out in the van.
And you've spent so much time in vans that you knew exactly what you wanted. What was it about the entryway? Tell us what you customized in that area to work for how you were going to use the van.
Right. Well, that was sort of motivated and supported by Site 7 in the design of a particular cabinet. A lot of people will have a cabinet in the doorway of their slider. And so I wanted a cabinet there because I knew that it would create storage for me on the other side. The other reason was Amy and I primarily like to cook outside. And so the size of that cabinet was dictated not only by the amount of storage, but how big the table was going to be when it sort of flopped down. It's on a piano hinge with a piece of webbing, because I want to be able to set a stove out there. So that was a customization that needed to be considered. And then once you're in there, you don't want the cabinet to take up the whole space of the interior of the van. So fortunately, Site 7 was like, hey, we've got this interesting design idea where we can sort of notch it and have it big and then a little narrower once you're in the van. The other really cool thing they did is they kind of built a box on the step underneath the cabinet. You can stash shoes behind it when you step in the van. So that was a really cool sort of customization and design feature. Also, I think I mentioned this before, in our previous van, the refrigerator was kind of in the van, and there was a cabinet here and a cabinet there, and you're kind of bending down to try and open the refrigerator. On this particular one, when you open the slider, the refrigerator is right there in the cabinet behind the driver's seat. So when you get your groceries, you just open it, lean forward, and place everything right in there. So not necessarily customized, but a very sort of sensible, decided upon location to have the refrigerator there. There's also the sink right there. Willow had the sink in the cabinet that faced outside the slider.
Right. Yeah, that's pretty common there.
Yeah. Again, I think we mentioned this before. There's only so many locations you can put things. And I like the sink option next to the refrigerator, cooking food, cleaning. It's all kind of in a nice orientation that like you would have in your kitchen at home. So you kind of swivel the seats at the front. And another customization was I'm going to have 2 different table placements in the van. Now, I haven't gone with the Lagoon table mounts, which is a very common table mount that people use, mount it to the side of the cabinet, and you can swing the table out. These are actually floor mounts. So they cut a hole in the floor and they kind of recess an area where you screw a post into that has the table on top. And so one of the customizations we chose to do was when you pivot the swivels, you can mount a table there. So it's kind of in the doorway, kind of near the fridge and the sink, but also midway back when you flip the bed, which was another customization we could talk about, because there's a bench here and there's a bench under the bed. It's another location that we can move the table to. So if we don't want to, the front seats could be kind of the my office or the dining room, or the back seats could be my office or the dining room, or we just want to sit out, and maybe look at the computer together, or just stare at each other across the table. Who knows? So the idea of having multiple spaces to work and multiple spaces to eat. And again, Amy and I have lived together in vans and in houses, very small houses, so we know how we function together, and we know how we're perfectly fine in that space. But if we could maximize the space so it felt bigger, there's that customization piece where you want to work with a builder who's going to say, I've got an idea for you. We normally put these square cabinets mounted on the ceiling above your cabinet, your sink or your refrigerator. And they said, but we also have this really cool idea where we kind of slice off the front edge of the cabinet. And this is kind of silly. I'm going to just hold up my phone, and you can see how they've kind of put an angle on the front of the cabinet, which a lot of people think, well, that's going to reduce the amount of space you have in the cabinet. Well, it also reduces the possibility of you whacking your head on the front corner of a big cabinet.
Big time.
And I also thought aesthetically, it's really pleasing.
Very cool.
And I looked at, this is in one of their vans that they have. I looked at it, I was like, wow, you're really not losing that much space. And it looks nice and it functions well. So we're like, yeah, let's do some custom cabinets. Let's do a full run along that wall, above the kitchen sink, the refrigerator, the bench. You can sit in the bench and you're nowhere near the cabinet. And then there's 3 more cabinets above the bed. And fortunately, our heads are on the other end, the other side of the bed. So you don't have to worry about bonking your head if you sit up in the middle of the night. So, yeah.
Let's talk about that bed that you're putting in because you did a lot of cool things, including the bench, which is unusual. Tell us what led to needing a custom bed, and then tell us about that bed itself.
Well, the custom bed, interestingly enough, after I said to those guys at Site 7, my other bed was so big, it took up a lot of space. And I know you're putting a bench there, but, I'd really like to have something else. And Jammer, one of the guys who's a designer, electrician, he goes,
Shout out.
yeah, hey, Jammer. And he goes, I got a good idea. What if we put like a piano hinge and we gave you a mattress that wasn't a full mattress? It was 2 pieces. And when you wanted to, you could lift one of the mattresses up onto the other mattress. You can literally flip the bed frame over on itself, tuck it under the mattresses. We're going to put another bench over here. And you got another, 24 inches of living space. And I was like, fellas, let's do it. Let's try it. And again, here's that sort of really nice relationship we established where artistic license turns into creative sharing. And the next thing you know, they're like, hey, we're going to do this in one of our other vans. This is a great idea. So that was a really unique customization that I didn't even see coming. One of the things that I was excited about is in Willow, because they had put the water tank under the bed sort of east to west, they had a wall that separated under the bed with the garage. So when you got in the van, if you looked into the bed, there was a wall there.
Yep.
These guys don't have the wall there. So you can see straight through the whole garage. And I am going to have a pull-out tray. There's another customization. I told the guys, I've got $15,000 in mountain bikes. There are going to be times where I want to be able to put the bikes in the van. So I've got this beautiful pull-out tray. I'm going to put some front fork mounts on there to put the bikes inside. And just the ability to look through, and you can put other things on the tray. And instead of going outside the van to pull the tray out to get to something, I could just reach under the bed and grab, a chair or, my laptop stashed away in one of the cabinets under there. So that was a really cool sort of a customization. And I envisioned down the road, if for some reason I'm going to go to Lowe's to get some lumber because I'm doing a home project, I've got a 12-foot run through that entire van that I can now slide some lumber into. So we now turn the van into a home on wheels, into a multi-purpose vehicle that lets me go get wood supplies at a Home Depot or something.
Yeah, that's fantastic. I love that design. It also allowed you to put in a unique bench setup for opposing benches and a table. Can you tell us about that? Because I think it's just genius.
Yeah, well, the original idea, again, as you enter the van, you see the refrigerator, you see the cabinet with the sink and some drawers, and next to that is like a 24-inch wide bench. And then on the other wall is that indented cabinet. And it could have just been dead space or a cabinet for storage, but sort of offset a little. They managed to squeeze in because I said, God, I'd really love to have like a dinette. You see these vans that have these beds that are in, hydraulics, and they lower down over the dinette. But one of the things Amy and I really want in our van is I don't want to make the bed every time we pull in somewhere. And in Althea, the Volkswagen, every time we stop, you got to pull the bed out, put the sheets on, blah, blah, blah. I mean, how pathetic do we sound? We don't want to make our beds every night. But the idea of if you pull into a rest area at midnight, the last thing you want to do is make your bed. You just want to crawl up and go to sleep. So the fact that they were able to incorporate when we're parked for a couple days and we've got all day, we can fold the bed in half and we have a work area for me or a dining area for both of us that's not necessarily in the front of the van. So we kind of have 2 dining rooms, 2 offices, and it's just a really cool design. And once again, they're like, hey, we're going to try this in a different van. So I'm hoping that my van's going to be on their website as one of their options as a possible build in terms of the features that we've kind of collectively created to create an environment, a living environment that Amy and I function in really well. And that's one of the things you need to think about when you're doing a van. There's one thing to go away for a night. There's another thing to go away for 3 months, and that's your home. It's like a Swiss Army knife. You've got all these things going on, and you want to make sure that when you're ready to do this, you just pull down that, or you do this, and everything is right there. And at the same time, it actually feels quite spacious, which is really interesting.
Were there any customizations that Site 7 does that you declined, that you didn't go for one reason or another that you can think of?
No, I don't think so. I think
Everything custom for Mr. Mike.
Yeah. I mean, again, other than the materials they use, that's one of the things that drew me to them. The metal framing around the cabinets, the beautiful maple on the ceilings. They let me pick my own fabrics. I think in one of the other pictures when we were at Site 7, you saw this striped orange fabric. That's the fabric I chose for the bench seats. So I'm really psyched to see them turn those into cushions. And like I said, I think they were equally as kind of excited that, this guy wants to have fun in his van. We're going to have fun building his van. So whatever customizations he's dreaming up, let's see if we can create. And again, they were all done to make the space more livable and more enjoyable. I mean, what is it, 70, 80 square feet? And you've got two people in there. Who knows, one of these days we might get a dog. I need to have a place for our bikes, my cycling gear. One of these days we might do the traveling nurse thing, because that's part of why Amy went back to school. We had visions of living in Willow and doing the traveling nurse thing. So if you're living in this puppy for 3 months out of the year in Maine or Montana, when Amy comes home after a 14-hour day, it's got to feel like home, and that's kind of what we created with the the customizations, the design, the layout. And that was kind of the additional motivation beyond my need to go recreate all over the country, whether it's skiing or biking or hiking, or just sitting on a lawn chair in front of a beautiful lake. It all needs to be self-contained. And that's what we were really fortunate enough to get when discussing this with Site 7.
70 or 80 square feet is tiny, and most of the conversation is about how do you fit everything into that
Right.
that little amount of area. But living in it with two people, when you got to walk past each other
Yep.
or work together, is a big deal. How do you guys deal with being in such a small space with two people?
We love each other. Now we actually deal
Patience.
really well. I mean, when we were in Colorado, I mean, again, when I met Amy, I was living in Althea. Our first date was in her neighborhood, a block away from her house, in my van. I slid the door open. I had a bottle of wine.
She said yes to that.
Yeah, so
You
I
got to keep
figured
her.
this. I found me a diamond in the rough, and the fact that we traveled, even after that in Althea, we lived in a really small cabin while again we renovated and didn't have plumbing. So for me, I was really lucky. Now I get a lot of customers that call. My wife wants a blow dryer. She needs to have a shower. She needs these things, the cappuccino machine. So then you have to be even more creative with your design and your expectations. Like I said, I'm fortunate my wife can shower out the back with me holding up a towel. She'll go to the bathroom in the woods. For the wife who won't do that, or the partner, boyfriend, girlfriend, whatever it might be, then it becomes more of an interesting challenge to creatively make a space that you can be comfortable in. So when we're on the road, I actually, interestingly enough, I sleep better in my van than I do at home. I don't know what it is. If
Wow.
it's just because I'm out on the road and I'm feeling free or something, but it's bizarre. I don't sleep well at home, but I get in the van, I'm like, oh, this is where I'm supposed to be. Even Amy is like, yeah, this is so nice. Excuse me while I go to the front and get some cheese and crackers. And I'll meet you out on the front porch, which is our beautiful Fiamma awning, that happens to be, we're in a campground next to a picnic table where there's the stove and I'm making a stir fry, so You got to be willing to have fun with it and be creative. And in that, mindset, I mean, the possibilities are limitless, kind of thing. You know.
When you think about your van and how excited you are for it, is it mostly the custom work that you're excited about? It seems like that's what makes it yours.
Oh
Is that
yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah. I mean, I used to say when I sold Willow, I said, this is a one of a kind van. You will not find another Willow anywhere on this planet. And the same thing's going to be with Neve. And even though it's customized to Amy and to me, some other couple is going to be like, this is a really great setup. When I was selling Willow, I had a couple, they looked at it 3 or 4 times and they just loved the way everything flowed. But they wanted a bigger water tank. The wife needed a couple other things. They wanted an AC. And I ended up selling it to a single woman who's traveling all over the country in it right now. She recently wrote to me and said, I'm loving Willow so much.
That's
People
great.
love Willow. So
She kept the name.
yeah, she
I
did.
love it.
Yep, yep. She kept the name, and she was into pink, the color pink, and so she got a custom Mercedes logo that was in pink, and she sent me pictures. I had like a Rotopack gas tank on the back, and she got all these stickers on it and stuff. So it's kind of cool to see someone else take something that you dreamed up and loved and made it their own. Yeah, I think the whole ability to have sort of experienced van life led to a knowing if there were things that needed to be custom, they were based on how Amy and I function together as a team, as a couple, when we're out doing our thing.
That's a great segue to lessons learned, and it might be the beginning of the lesson learned here. But as you think about the customization, what are some key takeaways for the audience?
Well, as crazy as it sounds, I think I would have had them made the bed a little smaller. You know,
Wow.
Yeah, when Amy and I were there the first day, we actually got in one of their vans and we kind of measured how much room we took up. And
Yeah.
again, when I do sleep, I'm kind of a sloppy sleeper. I'm flip flopping all over the place. So we kind of measured and we came out with it's just shy of a queen size. Um, and I was in a van recently that had a bed similar, and I was like, you know what? We probably could have had a bed 6 inches smaller. But fortunately for us, we customized the bed where I can get 24 more inches out of the whole bed. Again, I learned that even when you think you've got it all dialed in, you're going to see something else and it might be like, ding, well, geez, maybe we should have. Oh, no, no, I'm happy. At a certain point in time, you just got to love what you're doing.
Put the pencils down.
Oh, that's it. That's it. That's exactly right. So the lesson learned would be, um, don't be afraid to be adventurous in your planning and hope that you find a builder that will encourage and support that, which again, Site 7 is just amazing. And we talked about it earlier. Go rent a van, go get in a van, see how you and your partner walk from the front of the back of the van together. And if that's an issue for you, if you have to have an office and the other person has to have a beauty salon, how is that going to play out in the design of the actual van? And you want to be comfortable. And fortunately, for us, we're going to beautiful, gorgeous places. So if it's a 15-hour daylight, 13 of those hours we're out. But when you do come home, you're like, just like when you come home at your real house, you kick your shoes off, you open the fridge, you grab a beverage, you're grilling out on the grill, and you're at home. And so that's to me is the ultimate van life experience where I could go do this. I could get in a van right now and be gone because I created something, a space that is just so darn comfortable and enjoyable that
That's
it's
great.
hard to come back home to the
Yeah, I
real.
love that.
Yeah.
Any chance we can get you to change the name of your van to Sloppy Sleeper?
Sloppy, flip flop and sloppy sleeper. It took me long enough to come up with Neve. There
All
was
right.
Marley, there was
The
Moss.
next van.
I
The
was
next
clinging
one.
to Willow for the longest time, so because it just feels like a nice name, the Willow in the wind, and we're out on the road just cruising around. So I mean, that's another whole episode we can have, naming your van.
Yes. Yeah, we'll just listen to dead songs for 25
You can
minutes.
do that, yeah. So
Mike, that was fantastic. We haven't really been mentioning for the audience, but we should have been. So we'll start now. If you're listening on a podcast, you could also listen on YouTube or watch on YouTube, and we'll have videos and pictures so you can see a lot of what Mike's talking about. So both places, if you want to check it out, pictures are going to be up on YouTube as well as on our website. So Mike, thank you so much. It was a pleasure, and can't wait to talk to you again in episode 7. In the next episode, we're heading outside. From solar panels to ladder racks, exterior lighting to wheels and tires, we'll show you the mods that make this build road ready and off-grid capable. Thanks for listening to episode 6 of Mike's Van Build podcast. Photos, links, and product info from this episode are all up at vanlifeoutfitters.com/podcast. Subscribe, tell a friend, and stay tuned for more build stories. I'm Jerem with Van Life Outfitters. We'll see you in episode 7.